Greetings. Well, I've got a new computer, Dell Inspiron 3535. I thought I would show a few things to you. I will talk about it a lot. I can't say I'm happy because I'm not happy. It's more trouble than I've ever had with a computer in my entire life. And I've had multiple computers, well, goodness, since 2001? And, this is just how life is, I guess. So what I'm going to do is something I don't think I've done before, ever, which is I'm going to move whatever that thing is called. By the way, I've gotten to that point now where there's just things I don't remember the names of. This is what happens when you start getting old. But I'm going to show you what the laptop looks like. And I don't know how to shrink it, but I'll come back a little bit. But this is pretty much it. And it's showing, what I can change. It's showing the exact same thing that's on my monitor right now. I'm pulling back a little bit more. You can see there's the keyboard. You can see that I have two 2 terabyte drives. So there's a 2 terabyte drive inside the laptop. I have these two. I have a third one because back in 22 or 23, when my other computer decided it didn't want to play anymore, I bought 3 of these things, so that wouldn't be another problem I would have. Now, here's one of these things about these laptops, and you got to think about these things because I didn't think about it. I only have one small port. Like how you have a mouse and you can push it into the port. See if I can move this over here. Got to be here somewhere. Okay, here we go. That's it. That is the thing for the port. That's it. And I have something totally different in that because one of the first things I did was I bought this thing where you can connect 7 different ports. So I've got one for the mouse and I've got one for the smaller, hard drive. And this thing here, let's see, let me do this. That's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Where is it? That thing up there, that's how I connect to the internet. Because I don't have an outside way to connect to the internet because when I switched to Verizon back in 2016, they basically had to drill from this room into another room and also outside to go around the house so they could connect it to another box in the garage. And I'm on the totally other side of the house. So this is what I have. That's the only way that I can connect to the internet. And, this is just how this is. And now I'm going to put this back. Hope y'all can stay with me for a while. Let's see how this goes. Let's see where it's got us. Okay. I guess it doesn't go that way. That's a little better. Bring this down again. So anyway, I got this thing. It uses Windows 11. I've been using Windows 10 for more than 10 years. I knew how to do everything with Windows 10. I could still use my old Excel programs. So I'm saying Excel out. Microsoft Office programs. So I had Excel and I had Word and I had Publisher and something else I never really used ever, but I still had access to all those things. So whenever I would do a video, it knew exactly where to go. When I would take certain pictures, everything knew where to go. it don't go where it used to go because this is Windows 11. They totally changed everything up. I basically worked hard trying to figure out how I could use some of the things that were just normal for me that I had trouble with. So I think it was Saturday night into Sunday morning, but it started Saturday night. What I wanted to do was see if I could get Thunderbird. Thunderbird is the program that I use to do email. It's been around a good long time. Mozilla came up with it, and it's not a bad thing. I got to tell you, I love that. So I thought I could do this thing. And I found some instructions online where it says how you could do this. So it tells you to go into, Mozilla, go to some of the website, some of the things in your computer, find out where certain things are going so that then you can download a new Mozilla Thunderbird program, and then you can go to the new computer and you can just load everything into a profile and you're good to go. That don't work. The reason it doesn't work is because I don't know exactly how long Windows 11 has been out there, but the instruction said go there, go into, find what you're looking for, and then delete everything. Except I couldn't delete anything because it doesn't have what it says the instructions are. So I have no idea when when the process was fixed or cheated or changed or whatever. Didn't work. So it said you can have other ways. So it mentioned something about, one of those little portable drives. So I had a 16 gig drive. I said, okay, that's fine. I don't need anything that's on here. I've had this for a bunch of years, but I've never had to use it. Okay, I used it when I first got it, but I didn't have to use it anymore. So I take this back into the other room because one of my friends says, hey, can't you still access the internet, your old computer, in a different room? To which I said, I actually hadn't thought about that. So I took it into one of the other bedrooms because I have 5 bedrooms. Yes, it's just me in the house. Don't hate on me. So I took it in there, plugged it in, had a mouse. It turned out I had 4 mouses. Yeah, I guess we'll say that. And I hooked that in. And what I mentioned here earlier is that I have basically a gigabyte router that I had to plug into this thing that I bought because I couldn't put it into the computer. And I started thinking about it. I said, wait, I got a second one here in the house somewhere. So I'm looking all over the house, and it turned out I found it. It's a Netgear gigabyte extender or router. I said, great, I can do that. So I was able to hook that in there so that I could, do the internet. And then I made all these changes, like I said, to the Thunderbird over there. And I put in the disk so that I could copy everything into one of my 2 terabyte drives. And I brought it in here, tried to do something. It didn't let me do. So I figured a different way out because, I'm not the dumbest guy in the world. I may not be the smartest technology. There's a whole bunch of people know a lot more than me because, worked in healthcare for 40 years. But still, I tried that. And everything wouldn't download. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. You're telling me that this folder only has 6.7 gigabytes I need to move. This is clear. It says it accepts 16 gigabytes of stuff. Well, no, that's not how that works. Because it doesn't show you what's in all the folders. It will show you, like this says john.exe or john whatever. All that's just going to move over. But every one of those folders, it doesn't tell you what's in those. And I didn't know that was going to happen. So I did a test on that, and it turned out that I needed 170 gigabytes. Well, so much for the flash drive. That wasn't going to work. So I wasn't really sure how am I going to do that. And I thought about it for a bit, and I said, you know what? I've got that third drive. By the way, this is the third drive because, like I said, this was my storage. Nothing was ever going to break down on me again. But I took this in the other room, and then I realized I need a second port to put something in there so I could do this. Like I said, luckily I figured it out, and I transferred everything that was on there. But first I had to open up Mozilla, and I brought all this stuff over, and it wouldn't load on here. And I said, maybe if I can get rid of some of the stuff that I have in my Thunderbird program, all this stuff that I backed up, I had backed it up since, I'll say, 2018. And now I had to delete all that stuff out. So I did that and brought it back in here. No, it just wouldn't work. So then I go back into the other room, and I was able to use Thunderbird. And that was a big deal because now I could at least download email. And I had been using AOL's email. And some of you might say, why would you use AOL? What's up with that? Because back in the day, we had Time Warner and we had Verizon. So when you first went to Verizon, they didn't have a way for you to access regular email. So basically you had two choices. You could start over and go with the Verizon, or you could go with AOL, which I had never used AOL. Obviously, if you go back to the 90s, when we were first getting online, we were using AOL. So I have AOL email that I have to use for Verizon. Makes no sense whatsoever, but that's what they did. So at least now I have a way in the other room where I can look at email, I can download stuff, I can respond to people. Some of the things that I had with people who I talked to, they would send me files. I couldn't find them on this computer. I didn't have them on the other computer because I had deleted the stuff off of Thunderbird in the other room. That stuff was now gone. But I got there eventually. That's just, the best you can do. So then I said, okay, I need to get something from Windows 11 on this laptop. Oh, and by the way, you saw the pictures early on. A friend of mine sent me something that will tell me how I can basically set this up so I can close the laptop and I won't have to look at that anymore. And it may stop this noise because probably every 25 to 30 minutes, this noise comes up. And you can't hear it right now. You might have already heard it, but I've been talking. But this noise comes up and then it eases back down. But if I can eventually close that, at least it will stop that noise. Anyway, like I said, I now have access to email. I'm trying to get a program that's called Mail Washer. Now, I've had Mail Washer for way over 10 years. As a matter of fact, I am an affiliate for Mail Washer. So I have the pro version of it. Whenever there's an update, I get the free updates. I don't want to say they love me because I don't know if they necessarily love me, but I've been averaging $150 a year from one of my blogs because of Mail Washer. Sounds good, right? Yeah, except for the fact it wouldn't work on this thing. And it was only today when I was finally able to get it to work on the other computer, the one that I had before this one. And then I could access a whole bunch of websites in the other room that I can't do on here. It's problematic. So, I'm talking about this thing. I want to make some recommendations to some of y'all. And I hope some of these work. One, when I was looking through these 3,000 to 3,500 different computers, aka laptops, because I really wanted a computer, but one of my friends says, no, you need a laptop. It'll give you a lot more space, which I will get eventually because my desk is a mess because I haven't been able to do anything on the computer, so I haven't cared about anything that's on here. So the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out what type of computer you want. You also, it probably helps if you have someone who's savvy with some of the new names, because I didn't know a lot of those names. And he said, no, you want to get the Dell laptop. It's a great working laptop. And that's what I was working. This is him. What he was working on when he was working at the the Pepsi plant, like about 20 minutes away from here. And that way, he could take it home and take it, back to work, whatever. So I went with the Dell. I didn't realize that there was a boycott against Dell going on. And y'all know about these, why people are protesting against certain companies. I've mentioned that in the past. So I've got this Dell. Nothing I can really do with it. But I'll be able to do something with that in a little while. But he recommended one that I do that and then try to set things up one at a time. I don't know. Now, one of the other things is that I've got this big monitor here. Turns out I have another of the exact same size monitor in there. And I have a third monitor that is also in a different room that's a little bit smaller, but it's still big. And then I have another monitor that is in my ex's old office. And it's the small one, 25 inches. little thing, I don't know. But, like I said, it turns out that there's a lot of things that you might not be able to do if you buy a new computer or laptop, because things are always changing. Now, I found this interesting. There was this article and then this video, and it was talking about Microsoft. And they were having this kind of conversation with Bill Gates, who said, maybe we put this out too much right off the bat. And that's why people are frustrated, because we've given them some instructions, but some of the computers came out after we created all these instructions. And so people can't get to that. And that's why they're upset. So Windows 11 hasn't been selling all that well. They're still number one in the nation. I don't know the world, but in the nation, they're still number one. But it's not just me. I thought it was me. I kept thinking, I can't be this stupid. Am I really this stupid? I can't do anything? It wasn't just me. It's a lot of people. Bill Gates figured it out. He told people, yeah, we understand. We're going to see what we can do, but there's no time frame, because we're not sure if there's anything we can do, because we're not Windows. But at least they acknowledge that. So maybe there's a chance. But like I said, I liked all my other stuff. And the thing is that I didn't want to have to keep buying Office every single year. I didn't like Office 8, but I loved Office 10. I didn't like 6. I actually liked 5. How many of you remember 5? But I don't want to have to buy that all the time. I had programs that I knew how to work, and I wanted to stay with those. Supposedly, there's a way, and I looked it up, where it says that you can use some of these things, and we're going to tell you how to do it. But you know what? I haven't bothered with it over the last few days, because, like I said, now that I can access some of the stuff in the other room, I said, you know what? I'm just going to chill. I'm going to watch some YouTube videos. I'm going to read some stuff. I'm going to talk to some people on Facebook, because I haven't been able to do that. I'm going to answer some emails, because I hadn't been able to do that. It's frustrating. Before you decide to buy a new laptop or computer, try to find out some stuff about Windows 11. Try to see if maybe you know somebody locally who will set this thing up for you, because this is what they do. I think there's one in my area, down in the village. And there's a whole lot of cars always out there. I don't know. But I wanted to get something out because, like I said, this was 4 weeks ago today that I got that thing. It looks cool, but it's got some issues. But at least now I can get into some of the easier stuff that's on my other computer. By the way, I can also still access all my Excel products that go way back to 2006. So I can still write messages, and, or, I can create content on, let's see, I got Excel, whatever. I've got everything that I needed. I have Microsoft Photo, ED. I don't know what the ED stood for, but that allows me to do a bunch with tons of pictures that I have on the computer in the other room. I've got some on here too, but not as many as in the other room. Think it through. That's basically the thing I can say to you. Oh, and by the way, there shouldn't be any lag on this because it turned out it wasn't the camera. It was the computer because the other computer didn't have enough stuff in it. As a matter of fact, one of the first things I was hoping to do is put Windows 11 on the other computer, and then I found out it ain't compatible with it. That's why you need a new computer or laptop. Do a little bit of reading. Like I said, this isn't going to give all that many people a whole lot of comfort. You're just going to possibly, if a lot of you watch it, even if it's just like a few, if I get 10 people because they want to see how crazy I've got, I'm still frustrated. But I figure as long as I have ice cream and some cake, life's not such a bad thing. That's an easy life I have. Anyway, my name is Mitch Mitchell. Hopefully the next time I'm able to do a video, I will be able to have more information no matter what the topic is. We'll see how it goes. Y'all take care.